we did have an executive session as anticipated, and we did present presentations. We now have we're going to break a roll call of trustees. We have two new trustees with us, two new board members, Kathy Hero, Bergeron, and Joseph Russo. Joey Russo will be joining us later this evening. And Archie is not able to do this. So with that, we're going to go to the order. What's there any topic for board discussion? Other than mentioning that the graduation was a huge event. But
true, I was at graduation. That was for you. Yes,
so I
yes, amazing ceremony. So proud of her.
it's wonderful to see the kids participate as the speakers. I think that's very great. Thank you for your speech. With that, is there anything else? Discussion. We move to item 1.5, discussion of the NISBA resolution on swimming pools. This is brought forward to us. And we have not yet responded. I told Connie that she's the person who brought it to a bunch of different boards. We would discuss it, decide whether we would sign the resolution. NISBA is an organization that we work with for policy matters and other work-related activities with New York State School Board Association, and they also do some lobbying. And boards can all provide resolutions that propose that NISBA would lobby on behalf of school districts around the state. So this is forward. We as a board did put forward a resolution that we adopted towards the use of and funding for environmental needs on sustainable practices. With that in mind, so this is the resolution about swimming pools. And I think it's attached to the agenda if you're looking at it online, not a different version, but it's resolved that NISBA would advocate for the New York Swims Initiative to be extended and expanded to include additional enhanced and targeted state funding specifically dedicated to constructing pools in K-12 schools, and for increased aid for operating maintenance and staffing costs associated with those facilities. This enhanced funding should be built into building aid formulas to promote equitable and year-round access to swimming instruction for all students. Okay, there's a lot more rationale there that
is this just either adopt or don't? What we don't be don't do that. We're saying whether we want to sign on.
Right, either sign on or not, but we could say we would sign on if it said this for that instead of what it says. I don't know that they can make those changes, but if it doesn't get changed, would we sign on to the unchanged version? And that might be a question.
We also know if it is tied to aid, would it be there must be some requirement, right? That we have the pool open at certain times, that there's no charge for swimming lessons. If it is to give equitable access to a pool so that swimming lessons happen. Do we know anything of like, is there any keeper there?
No. Okay. I don't the No, it's not about our pool. This is about pools. That pools should be built in every school district so that all students have access to pools. And it has some rationale that talks about how important it is for kids to legislate that the access is often limited for some important students who are spending credits and other things access for those. And that there is a New York Swims Initiative to equal equitable access to schools.
The second half certainly seems like it would apply to us. You can say for operating, it's a staff costs.
But is it reasonable for all districts to build pools if there are existing pools like in the YMCA that are reasonably close to a district or within a district? Would it be more economical to have kids filter to those for a couple times a week for this duration of the swimming cycle? Rather than build a pool and maintain a pool in a district for as long as this funding lasts.
I think it certainly makes sense in the context of like a Google share swim program as a competitive program, right? To it, like, would you be able to shuttle or transport students for swim education?
So I'm going to comment on this. I will state that I've been in a district before where we set up a partnership with a local YMCA or local organization, and we did transport students to local that swim place for them to be in that swim units to be able to learn how to swim. And that, so that was done within the program. It was a smaller school district, did not have the funds for a pool, so they did a partnership with the So that is something that is doable from other school districts. Just from, as
Really feels like something that's
Yeah. Constructing a pool, it seems like a very energy intensive. Constructing and maintaining, it would have to be an indoor pool for year-round access. That seems
Yes.
What's the ramifications if we, I mean, if we sign on to this or if we don't, is there? And it's just basically our opinion that, well, we're supporting the idea that pools should be more accessible to every district.
Well, this one says municipal please go and advocate for schools to be built in districts and money to go to building them and maintaining them. And then also, if it's an aid-related thing, could it be at a ratio, our district doesn't have 100% funding. So let's say we didn't have a pool, we'd have to build it, but would we be fully funded? No, the taxpayers spend beyond 40%.
And whether they want our response or whether they don't. I'm sorry, did you?
I guess the other question I would have, and frankly, could shed some light on this, just more broadly, is the aid ratio for building pools, is this like the thing holding schools back from building pools? It would feel to me like maybe it's not, but that's sort of maybe a very naive view. I mean, like if, let's say, the aid ratio increased tomorrow, would we see Gilroy going? Where would they put it? This is like a very large project that has to fit into the overall, like strategic of a district.
so taking away any opinion, so we're trying to. So school districts have a lot of things that have to be budgeted out or planned for with facilities, and you have to be able to prioritize what those needs are. Roofing, boilers, do you want air conditioning, not air conditioning, since that's another thing that's been coming up in legislation lately. So there's a lot of other facility management things. So not even including the fact that you have limited space in schools, the way that we do it, have enrollment concerns, less enrollment concerns, all of those things playing in place. I don't think everybody has the ability or need for a pool. And they might look at something saying, if I have an aid ratio, which was ours would be very limited in comparison to other school districts, saying I have X amount of aid, am I going to put a new roof on or I'm going to build a pool? I think the board's always going to choose the roof, right? So you have to make those decisions. I don't know the feasibility of this. I think there's a lot of questions that I would just have in how you would budget through and how would you do it. I mean, we have one already, but if I did not have a pool in a district, I'd be very hesitant to say I was mandated to build.
The other thing is, having been through that pool had issues, it's very costly to fix those issues when the pool is very, very full. It's quite uncomfortable. But all that put aside, I do think that there is value in a lot of value in making sure that every single student has access to learning how to swim. So if this instead was making sure that all districts have access to swim, in the school year instructions, I think that is one of the problems that probably is faced, is that for a family that has students that don't know how to swim, getting them to learn to swim in the summertime is on the family, and might not happen if your parents cannot swim, your family members can swim, but if it happens in the school year with the parent just having to make sure that the kid is in school, and somehow there's bathing suits and all of the things that are needed. Whatever. Then if the district makes swimming accessible, does it have to be the swimming pool in the building?
I think that's where I am.
That
I love the stance, right?
building is where my sticking point is the building. I do see value in making sure every kid, especially the younger ones, I really think that swim instruction, and as soon as the kids can be on themselves, that's the best time to do swim instruction. Or just jumping into water.
But isn't that part of the process? I mean, it's up for us to figure out. Like, this was gonna lock the lobbies. Right?
Yes.
So they're going to bring this to the center, and it's gonna be massage and probably 5,000 employees.
Yes.
And will it end up that districts are being the pools? I think the bottom line is they're trying to create equity in swim programs. We're fortunate that we have that here,
Mhm.
and we have learned to swim, but there are a lot of areas in our capital region that don't have access, and the kids
In their building.
well, even I would say access if you're talking about transportation, even in the
So
so I think the goal is to teach all kids to swim, so we reduce drowning and those kind of things. That tends to be impacting minority students and socioeconomic disadvantaged students the most. So I'm not sure we need to massage whether people are building pools or not building pools. I think that will come out in the process of the lobby.
Well, except this resolution is very specific.
Yeah.
We're being very prescriptive in this lobbying effort, saying we want you to go lobby for them to build.
that,
But
I
think this is
have
a percent.
that. No, this is,
I mean, I
this
see
is,
it, I know what it says,
Yeah.
but I'm thinking that that's like the aspirational goal, and it won't really happen.
Could we communicate back to them with that?
Yeah, we
It sounds
can,
like we're
right.
in a broad agreement. We love the idea of more
Swim.
swings, right? But that feels a little bit, at least to me, prescriptive, being here's money to only build pools, as opposed to, hey, here's money to maybe bus kids to an offsite pool or
Yeah.
whatever that is to broaden the swim education. This is just that was a specific way to do it.
so perhaps we want to say, instead of saying, dedicated to constructing pools and for operating maintenance and staffing costs, but dedicated to provide access to pools and, including transportation and any other impediment.
That would be better said.
Because I think also, honestly, having a school that provided bathing suits across the board might be a major impediment that needs to be. So, and if, I don't know how we can do this, like legality wise. If this resolution did not read to constructing, the purposes to constructing pools, and for appreciate that sentence, but instead said something like, for money to provide access to pools, including transportation and the other impediments that would restrict access. Would we pass such? Is that something we can vote on and say, Connie, we would pass this, we would support a resolution that says this, but not one that says that, or do we vote? This
Yeah,
again.
so it sounds like voting sort of conditionally.
Yeah,
Yeah,
But I would love to give that feedback.
you have an opinion that you can share with them.
Yeah.
Like, here's why we're not able to vote on this. Yes.
all right. So with that in mind, does anyone want to put forward that we sign on to this, or do we want to sit back and say we will vote for it if it comes up with this type of language? Because what it is there's a municipal board business meeting. Last year's was 7 hours and 45 minutes long. During which time I went through matters. I can tell you, but every district votes that is in attendance votes on resolutions that are put forward. There's little conversations and so on. Time for this and time for that. So this would be something that would be put forward, and if Voorheesville was on the call, but it's an online thing now, then we would choose to vote for. But, we just submit our, it's too, I think we can submit recommendations, we can actually submit our own resolution. I think the deadline for that is like Friday. So we would have to say, that date, but what we can do, because it's a little weird to jump in this late in the game instead of repeating the solution, we could just say this is our recommendation. And I don't know how to, but we won't sign on to one and suggest that instruction.
I have a question. Is it, I'm kind of seeing a comparison to being a sponsor of a legislative bill versus voting for one. So hearing the feedback that I'm hearing, you would one way be to say, listen, we have these concerns about the resolution of its current state, but if the one that comes up for a vote comes up, I think you said eventually it's come up for a vote.
Yes, it is the business meeting, it's in October. So.
It's not going to prevent it from being offered up for consideration or a vote. And so basically, if the final version addresses these concerns that we have, you'll likely have our support. But as it's written now,
Yeah, we would vote for it at business meeting. Yeah. So they're asking if we'd sign on to be a sponsor along with them. And it sounds like we could vote no, or we could just not vote. No one wants to move it to a vote of sponsoring it, but I can tell Connie that these are our concerns. So this is the language that we would have voted for. Because it would be something that we would have to vote to sponsor. And I don't think there is another meeting that this board is having between now and when they have to submit this, and they've already had sponsors of Amsterdam, Pleasant Falls, and Sweden at South Colony. It looks like we're just going to tell them what our thoughts are like our proposed change of language, which we as supporters of it, but I don't think we would sponsor it this time, given that we don't get attention. Yeah, okay. So we're not actually voting on it. We're just moving forward. Amsterdam, Hudson Falls, and Stina, and South Colony.
Who's opposite? Yeah, I let him share this. Not sure about the other.
Any other? So I will reach out to Connie and Frank. I will copy you. She responded to my email that you all were copied on just to say, okay. And then she said something on myself this morning at 6:45. She got it. I would give her a answer tonight. With that, we'll move to 2.1, the opportunity for the public to be heard. Of anyone who likes to address or to the time. Item 3.1 is the student board member report. Joe will probably be joining us within about 10 minutes, but we're not expecting him to report at his first session. So when he comes in, just welcome to his. And now we move to Frank, who has more than 2 or 3 hours.
Oh yeah.
Yay!
There's one thing missing. I want to do the capital project update. So, just really quick, I don't want to go through a whole large thing of the year or everything else, but I do want to say a special congratulations to the class of 2024. It wasn't mentioned at the meeting, but at the graduation. But again, these are our. In fall of 2020, it was COVID. They went to school and it was a completely different environment. They were with staff members and schools that had no idea what we were doing. Like, let's be honest, we were all making it up as we went with new regulations and guidelines. And these kids were unbelievably flexible and resilient. And they came out, just amazing young adults. And I know that they're going to do great things. But, in 4 years, a lot has changed since we were freshmen to seniors, and almost we forget, all the different things that these students went through. And, look at now here they are moving off into the world. A special thanks goes out to every single staff member who's worked in the district or with the district over the past year. Without each and every person, and I really literally mean everybody who's involved here, we can't provide any of the services that we do. Everybody's integral to everything that we do. And any of us, our successes all are on, they're not one person, they're multiple people all working together. This year, as we always do, we continue to evaluate our programs and move forward. We are continually in a phase of improvement. 2023-24, we continued our technology initiatives, moved forward with multiple facilities projects. We did a large curriculum change. We focused on equity and inclusivity initiatives that included student voice. We did our first community fair that showcased our community as a whole. A shift in our providing social emotional learning and so much more. A few examples. A large number of our staff became certified this year. That was part of our tech plan initiative. We're trying to move forward. Large amount of staff did that. Grades K through 8 rolled out the second Google certified. Yep. I'll slow down. I'm trying to get through everything here.
That's okay.
We rolled out K through 8 a large second step social, emotional, and anti-bullying program and curriculum that was to the Office of Mental Health. It was a grant, so that was first of its kind K8 program. K5 took on a huge lift with grace and diligence. I mean, I have to say that by implementing the new reading program wonders throughout the year. We had multiple students groups, the seal of civic readiness, student voices on board meetings, leadership teams. Student voice is more prominent this past year than it's ever been in the past. Our bird launcher was rolled out K-12 and really has helped kind of solidify a lot of the things that we stand for. The middle school has a new secured vestibule, and by the end of the summer, the high school will have theirs. And the transportation facility is under construction with the elementary school designed and approved and ready to go. So, I mean, these are large things that happened, and we did all those in 1 year. This next year, we are not doing that much. It's progressed a little bit, and just look at what we're doing. That was a big lift this year. We're not doing big lifts like that again. We're going to move forward where we are. We're going to continue to implement current initiatives and look forward to the future. In the summer, it doesn't stop though, and I really think that's important. Our facilities crews are pretty busy with multiple projects. There's internal projects in the district we'll be doing, and I'll talk about them in a little bit. We're installing the second round of new cameras at the secondary campus. We're kicking off the energy performance improvements as soon as they're state approved. Still not state approved yet. And those improvements also include retrofitting all the lights in the secondary campus to LED lights. So moving forward, and one of the things it includes, which is a 12-month wait, is the desert air system in the pool, and we're talking about very expensive things. That is a $650,000 price tag that we're using through the energy performance grant to be used to save us a little bit of funds. It's different taxpayers, but it is very expensive. Other things that happen this summer isn't just facilities work, it's planning, but we're also doing a lot with students. We have students that can participate in secondary summer school, both held at both through BOCES. That is at BKW and the CUNA this year. The high school offers tutoring for those students who are only retaking exams, either through distance learning or tutoring that's paid through Title I. The district offers a 6-week special education summer school program for students. The first time ever, the district is offering 8-9 transition geared towards students who are at risk or academically, socially, emotionally need. So those students in 8th grade that are at risk or labeled at risk have an opportunity to transition to the 9th grade throughout the summer program to be able to help set them up for success. And this is all science-based research kind of ideas to be able to help move students forward. We also have a tutoring program, grades K through 8, principals identified using a wide range of data and recommendations. For grades K through 5, we have a summer tutoring program, it's reading and math. We have a total of 29 students signed up, and we are doing busing for those students this year, which we have not done in the past. So that's a large amount of just tutoring programs. These are kids who are deemed a little bit deficient and be able to stop that summer regression. They're being able to get into tutoring programs. We're also running a middle school virtual tutoring. These dates and times are worked out by the teachers holding the tutoring, and it's usually about 2 hours for a week for the students for 4 or 5 weeks. So, I mean, these are newer tutoring programs that we have started this year, and we're continuing to grow on what we do. And Karen Conroy really is the person that organized and started these programs. So that really is it with the summer stuff and the end of the year. Any questions on those things? Yes, we would. Yep.
I think that's on the budget.
It is on the budget.
Those bus drivers are on.
Yep. So capital project stuff. As you know or may not know, if you walk at the elementary school, there's a giant 250-pound brick that is about to fall. We've had it kind of blocked out. That emergency brick repair is happening. It started this week. They're also looking at all of the repointing down there because we've done a large amount of that last year when we had the bricks fall. So now they're doing the other half at this point. So pull the building, bricks and repointing, that work is happening. Repointing and resetting, basically they push it back in and they reset it masonry wise. So they put the cement back so it doesn't have any issues or water damage as well. The wall for the transportation facility is set to be done by July 1st. So they're still on schedule. The giant retaining. Yep. So that and the bricks are out there. They've been being delivered over the past couple of weeks. It's a slow process. It's about 2 hours away where the bricks are coming from. The first large bricks, you can only transport about 5 per load. So we're getting about 10 bricks per day when we have people on site to be able to accept the bricks. The other bricks are a little bit smaller. We're getting about 8 to 10 when the smaller ones come. So it is a slow process, but as soon as they get that up and running, they're going to be able, they say they're on track still and still doable to have that all done by July 31st.
Any boulders?
No boulders. No boulders, no rocks really. Actually, the sediment got nicer as it got lower. They think that they've actually probably in the past somebody's done work down there, and that's probably why they have those issues. But no giant rocks, no boulders, no anything. It was, we were very, very lucky.
But there was,
There was a manure pit that was there, and you could clearly smell that manure pit, even though it was probably 100 years old. So during the past year, we're also able to reconfigure the middle school entranceway. I just want to see that, you know, these things, even though they happen in a year, they take 3 to 4 years for these things to actually occur. So I know that the secure vestibules have been talked about since about 2016 and 17 for the middle school, high school. So the middle school finally got finished this year, and the high school is now under construction. Again, we reallocated smart much of that process, so there was no burden on the taxpayers for that. But we are now getting that done. We'll both have 2 secure vestibules for both entranceways come the end of this year. And here's the other big one that we're doing is over the summer, we're beginning the process of identifying areas in need for the secondary campus, putting a list together so we can start the next capital project for this area. Within 5 years, our debt services will be where it's maximum for us to be able to do it. And it'll be about time for us to go out for a capital project here at the secondary campus, meaning middle school, high school. So we're starting to put that together and have that nice conversation over the next year in facilities. So hopefully by the end of this coming year, have a kind of rough idea of what a capital project could be and how much money we could have. And Jim and I will be talking about more capital reserves and other things like that as we go through the next couple of years.
I'm going to ask the question for the facilities committee, if that's okay?
Yeah.
The facilities committee met before for the new facilities committee's forming. I'm just curious about what you're seeing as president.
I have a draft of that. I can send it to you.
How feasible is it? Because it's a different type of construction than the elementary school. So how feasible would it be to bring everything?
So the capital district superintendents are working together, essentially new legislation out there that's looking at having schools do this to see what schools have. So we've already done an audit of air conditioning within our district. The elementary school is going to be about 80% air conditioned by the time that we're all will be finished with the project. Especially that third floor that we talked about in the second floor area, the room on top, all those are going to have air conditioning. The secondary campus we're looking into, and you're looking at millions of dollars, just so you know, anytime you're doing these projects. It's easier to do it in the middle school than it is in the high school. The middle school is a central air unit. So you can just replace that one giant unit with air conditioning. I'm saying it's cheap, but saying that it's a little bit easier than running all the lines and everything else. The middle school, the high school has univents. So these little univents here, they're their own air conditioning units. So either you'd have to replace the units, which are all brand new based off of the last capital project that was done here in 2020. And then, or we'd have to run piping. So that is a little bit more expensive in comparison to the middle school piping. So that is something that we've already been kind of assessing as part of one of these things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have
Just a curious question, not adding to this.
No, it's already there. So I'm glad you asked.
Oh, I didn't. Oh.
Any other questions on those? There is pros and cons, and there's a district head of geothermal that I would want you to understand to accounts before we close. So moving forward. This year, I stated that we would do an attendance kind of report. So let's talk about chronic absenteeism. The newer screen is a little bit bigger. I can zoom in a little bit. So chronic absence from school, and this is the nicest definition. So when we talk about attendance and absence, there's a lot of things that we talk about, and it can get very confusing when you're not in it every single day. So I just want to talk about absences first. One, the chronic absences, they're missing 10% of the day of their year. And it does not matter if it's excused or unexcused. Any student who is not in school. So if they have a medical excuse, still counts towards that chronic absenteeism, right? And chronic absenteeism actually goes against us in our report cards, right? So it's all leveled as part of like the evaluation for us. So that is there and it's part of it. So chronic absenteeism, 10% or more missing from the school, does not matter if it's excused or unexcused, right? It differs from other attendance measures. So unexcused absences is tardiness. So if you're only truancies. So if you're unexcused, that's a truancy, and it's handled differently than it is in other school districts. And that goes CPS, other issues like that, and other things come along with that. CPS still can be called if there is chronic absenteeism, even if it's an excused absence. It can be education neglect, so that is still a part of that component. That can be considered a tier 3, which I'll talk about a little bit. But that is a part of it. And then the other thing that is different from chronic, it's not daily attendance. So your annual daily attendance, your ADA rate is what we call it. It's like how many kids are coming in the whole day. That's your whole aggregate for your school district. So high school average is about 93% daily. So that's not your individual. Chronic absenteeism is only for one student at a time. That's really what it's looking at. So it's trying to target and get schools to look at and identify students to be able to put effort in place to making sure that they're in school at all times. Does that make sense? So some of the things that we do, weekly, monthly review and tracking, attendance letters, phone calls, home visits, parents meetings, transition plans. I will tell you, I will be the first one to tell you, I received a letter because my child was sick this year. So we did get letters in my house. So it's everybody who gets them. But that is part of it, just to recognize the parents that, chronic absenteeism is something that we're responsible for in the district. And we have to, there's things that we do for this.
Question
yes.
about those when they go out, because I got as well. They all seem to go out at different times with different numbers. Is it when they hit like or close to 10% at that period of time? So say they're 30 days into school, if they miss 4 days, that's more than 10%.
Yes, it comes closer to the time.
With level over the Senate.
Yes, yeah, with near that 10% mark, when you start to see that we have a higher average of them missing, then they start sending it.
Yeah, I mean, some of them it was soon, and some of it was much later. So
yeah, that's what happens.
Yeah.
The staff that are involved, really, and I put this in a bullet point. Every single staff member in this district is responsible for attendance. And I'm just going to use an example that was in the Ultimate Enterprise really quick. Paige Langman, if you haven't seen the Enterprise, they said, "What's your favorite teacher?" And she said, "Lance Junko, because he's a custodian, because he's there every morning reading." Those greeting and those things that people do, that is the number one way we get kids in school, is having them feel vested and attached to people that they welcome. I mean, look at Paige. She said tons of positive interactions. She said things, right? That's signs.
But you don't have teachers on that.
All staff. And I don't want to state that it's not just staff or teachers, bus drivers, custodians, teaching assistants, secretaries, any individual who works in the district is responsible. That's why I said all staff that have interaction with students can have a profound impact on attendance. But the people really involved in the day-to-day aspect, administration, dean, social worker, school counselor, school psychologist, they're part of the weekly initiative of looking at the data trends, identifying them, working through them. So that is like the MPSS team, the one that the multi-tiered system supports. They're the ones that are really looking at those students, tracking those students, and then working with those families across the board. And that can also be home visits and other things that we'll talk about. We can include outside agencies by putting a suit on diversion or things like pupils in need of supervision through the county and child protective services. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do this. So moving on, so the student attendance report that I'm using this data from is called the SIRS. It's the Student Information Repository System. all the data that we give to the state goes from level 0, level 1, and then to level 2. When it gets to level 2, that's what the state utilizes for all their reports. So this report is called SERS 361, and it helps us identify students and utilize it. So this is what we use, so you'll know that we're going to give them. The attendance that it's gathered by building and district. It's broken down by multiple different levels. So it's students, gender, race, students with disabilities, English language learners, economically disadvantaged, and grade. So I explained what a cohort is, just so you're not in the educational world. When educators refer to cohort, K through 8, we typically call that a grade level. Child started their freshman year. So the 2020 cohort just graduated, and they're the ones that we're going to be able to have the graduation rate. So it changes a little bit when you're in high school and you're hearing people talk about it. I just wanted to share some of that with you. So where we stand this year. So at the end of 2022-23, the school district was 12.8% of our students were chronically absent. This year, 11.3%.